Hello, so welcome to my YouTube channel. So last week we were able to place various trades. We placed different trade on GBP USD. This happened to be the first trade that we placed for the week, and we were going long on it. So this was the point where I entered in. As you can see, entered by. I first got in with one position initially. Later that day, I was running in small loss of about few dollars actually. I actually broke a rule on this trade. Normally, I don't place trades on Mondays. Later on, I got into another entry. I placed two entry later on that day. I actually did breach my own rule of not placing trades Monday if I have not seen a clear setup or a continuation of a pattern. Because you can see this was a drawdown. Initially, I was down. If you look at the trend, you see that market was in a short uptrend initially. It was just taking higher highs before it can go for the continuation of the sale. And I was stopped out later that day. I was stopped out from the trade at this point. So I know the real cause of the loss of this trade was me because of I did not follow my own rule. I breached my rule and I let impatience get to me. And we've been on losing streak since last week. We haven't really got a good trade setup. We haven't gotten one at all. And this week was actually very, very good, but we were not able to get anything much. So it was at this point I was stopped out for the buy on GBP USD. I was being stopped for about $12 short from our $2,400 account. Later on, I went for a sell on BTC USD. This was actually a very, very good trade. And later that day, when I was being stopped out, the trade would have actually played a very, very good 1 to 6 ratio. The reason I was stopped out from this trade was because of I had a wrong entry. The moment I entered the trade was wrong. It was not a good timing. I would have executed at this higher high, at this bottom, at this high where I was being stopped. That was where I would have placed, but I rushed the trade and got in when I just saw a manipulation of a continuation of a sale, which I would have actually waited for. Later, I went short on Euro USD. It was a very, very good trade that would have actually played and would have printed out a lot of figures, but we had another wrong entry as well. This was on Tuesday that we got into this Euro USD. Would have waited for price to reach Monday's high before we go for the sell. All the setup that we got this week all played well, but the reason for the stops and the losses were because of wrong entry. This was the first one. I later got into position, but this was the first position that I got in on the Euro USD trade. I first got into a single position first in that day. I would have waited for the high to actually reach Monday's previous high. That would have been during New Year session, but I executed before then and placed my stop loss on it. So we're being stopped out that day. later. So the trade, this was the setup for it. This was the setup for it. So this was where I placed another setup on the Euro USD. I'm going to try another position from it. This was it. I was getting stopped out already from the first entry. So these were the ones that I placed on Monday on GBP USD and on BTC USD, and all I was being stopped at all because of wrong entry and impatience was what caused this loss on these two pairs. I was being stopped out from the two of them. So I went on analyzing charts for that day to see if I could get any good setup later on. So this was for Euro USD, the short position. We were running in losses and it was about to take our stop loss already. While we were making analysis for USD that we're analyzing for a sell. This was just a small analysis that we're making before we execute anything. So look again for Euro USD. We're about to hit the stop loss already. We're about to get stopped already from Euro USD. And when we executed this for USD we were being stopped out not long after we were even able to get into the trade. So this week that came, we actually had good setup, but we were being stopped out from or because of wrong entry, and we are now having a drawdown on our profit account. We are now down to $1,900 from a $2,000 account. So we are down on the accounts. Both last 2 weeks wins, all of them were being lost this week. This week we had loss of about $50, but we hope that next week we'll keep and we'll be able to do better. So this week was just a total week of total week of discipline and of learning new things, of how we'll be able to improve and how we'll be able to grow. So even though we are still having a drawdown, does not mean that we'll quit, does not mean that we'll stop. Though I was not able to place any trade on Thursday and Friday, which if I had, it would have actually given me a very, very good win that would have actually covered this or that actually covered all through Monday and Tuesday losses. But for our own discipline, we have to let it go. So this was it, and this was the end of the week. So, like I always say, the key to be profitable in forex trading is your focus, your consistency, and your discipline. So, even with this drawdown, we'll continue and we'll keep going stronger, and stronger. So, this was it for this week. Till next week again. Hope to see you. Please like, subscribe, and share with any friends to motivate them to stay stronger and harder. Thank you.